Naruto. Accidentally opening a fantasy world. Chapter 1. Uchiha Gold. Sunset Dusk. The country of fire, Konoha Hidden Village, where the Uchiha clan resides. Boss, give me a lunch. Jin was wearing pure black short-sleeved shorts, and the flame fan behind his back indicated his identity as an Uchiha. He was drooling looking at the bento on the counter. But it doesn't matter even if you don't wear clothes. Under normal circumstances, no villager would dare to enter the Uchiha clan. Kin Uchiha, you scum of the Uchiha clan. An angry scolding made Jin, who was choosing a lunch box, look up. The person who came out of the store was not the store manager, but a little bean curd. The son of this shop is called Uchiha Wildfire. Never mind. Uchiha Jin shook his head. He didn't plan to buy a bento. There were still some dishes at home, so let's make something. Seeing Jin completely ignoring him, Wildfire taunted him. Don't think it'll be okay if you pretend not to hear. You failed the ninja exam. Unexpectedly, Jin smiled toothily at him and raised his thumb, very proudly. You guessed right. Yahuo's anger was rising. How could there be such a shameless person? When has the Uchiha clan ever produced a member who couldn't even pass the ninja exam? Do you have the dignity of the Uchiha clan? Excuse me, you'd better look behind you. Jin suddenly spoke up to interrupt Wildfire. Wildfire however was determined. I don't believe your nonsense. He was sure that as soon as he turned his head, Jin would disappear and he could not be found. Based on his experience in school, he had experienced this before. What are you talking about, Kim? Boy. A big hand grabbed the back of Wildfire's Destiny's neck, making Wildfire dance and scream, wow. A lame middle-aged man with a livid face grabbed his boy. The owner of this store. Uchiha Noki. I'll take care of you later. Saying that, Nomu threw Yahuo into the house and turned to Jin Heian with a happy look. This kid needs to be dealt with. Don't worry about him. It's okay if he didn't pass the exam this time. Just keep working hard, Xiao Jin. He handed a carefully prepared bento to Jin. And this, don't go hungry. How much does this cost, Uncle Nogi? It's free, you can take whatever you want. Okay, Uncle. Jin nodded and left in the direction of his home. When he was at a certain distance, he took out a 50-tael coin and threw it casually, and it fell on the counter with a curve. This kid. Nogi laughed and picked up the coin on it, shouting hurriedly, too much. For next time. Jin's voice came from afar. Looking at Jin who was walking away, Nomu had a complex expression on his face. Pity. Although his parents are Junin, he is a ninja with no ninjutsu ability. It was very difficult for Mu Chang's family, but he had no choice but to sigh. Wildfire walked over rubbing his head. Dad, why? He treated his son like this just for a loser. He was his biological son. Why did he feel that he treated Uchiha Jin better than him? You kid. Yemu started to roll up his sleeves. Yahuo saw something bad and wanted to run away, but unfortunately he was caught. Nomu casually picked up the broom from the side and hit Yahuo, angrily scolding him while beating him. Your father and I were saved by Jin and his father. How dare you do this to Jin? Don't you know that he came here to take care of our business? Wildfire couldn't listen at all, and his mind was now filled with pain. Stop fighting. I know I was wrong. I won't let you know how powerful I am today. You really don't take my words seriously. Pa, pa, pa. The violent whipping sound made people passing by take a breath. Jin was not at peace on his way home. A group of little bean sprouts who had not yet gone to school appeared out of nowhere and surrounded him, spinning in circles and singing. Uchiha's glory, Uchiha's gold, Uchiha's trash, failed the exam, ninja. Jin still hummed along with the tune they sang, without paying any attention to the lyrics and music. Anyway, this is already a fact now, and even being scolded won't give you a piece of meat. Huh, he even jumped up with them not having fun. After all, it was not surprising that he was only 12 years old. Among the Uchiha who passed by, there were some who despised him, some who despised him, some who disdained him, and some who sympathized with him. Jin jumped along with the limericks written by some bean sprouts, and his mood improved a lot, but the few bean sprouts were not happy anymore. They were there to taunt King, not to accompany him. Absolutely. Several little bean sprouts made faces at him and ran away. Jin didn't stop, and jumped all the way back home. Sure enough, when you are a child, you should experience the joy of being a child. Although the atmosphere was not very pleasant, he just enjoyed himself. When I returned home, I offered 3 sticks of incense to my parents who died in the war. Although it's not a habit of this world, it still has some meaning. Jin looked at the black and white photos of his parents and sighed helplessly. He was very grateful to his parents in this life for giving him a new life. In my previous life, I gave work to a dump truck because I didn't look at the traffic lights. The originally good life just disappeared. As soon as he opened his eyes, he came to the war-torn world of Naruto and was reincarnated into the Uchiha clan. It's true that the old man eats arsenic and thinks he will live longer. I want to cry but have no tears. Let's not talk about this unstable peace timeline. Although there is no big war, there are constant small conflicts, and there is a final battle waiting for him later. After surviving this time, there will be the Third Ninja World War. If we survive this, the Uchiha clan will be in danger of being exterminated. This is no different from having a guillotine on your head. He could die at any time. As for failing the ninja exam, it wasn't because he was pretending to be dangerous, but because he really didn't pass it twice. The last ninja exam was about clone techniques. This time, the test was about substitute techniques. Unfortunately, he couldn't use any of them. He can now be regarded as the only person in the Uchiha clan who cannot use ninjutsu. As for the Sharingan, the Uchiha clan's ancestral ninjutsu, he had no hope and was an embarrassment to many time travelers. If you want to open the Sharingan eye, you need to experience spiritual pain. Not to mention the kaleidoscope, that thing needs extreme love. Later, Uchiha Madara chose Obito, not because he really had any extraordinary talents, but simply because he loved enough and could hate enough. For Jin, let alone the ultimate love, even if the emotions fluctuate, it is really difficult for him to have any bond with this world. Emotion is an important factor in opening eyes. If you hadn't seen Sasuke angrily open his Magatama on the night of the genocide, you would know how difficult this kind of relationship is. The main reason why he can't release ninjutsu now. I have to mention it. What a cheating golden finger. His golden finger is called deduction, and he can deduce anything, from the cultivation techniques for cultivating immortals to how to fall asleep quickly. It sounds very powerful, right? But it demands a lot. The restrictions are severe. First, if it wants to deduce something, a text box will appear, and then you can enter your own ideas and creative direction. Then we need to provide it with basic technology. For example, if you want to deduce the postpartum care of a sow, you first need to provide the biological knowledge of the sow, the technology of the sow production process, and the sow care technology. Then why didn't he just buy a book on postpartum care for sows? In other words, if you want to deduce something, you must first give it the underlying logic. It's no different than me combining my own learning with technology to invent it. Of course, the only thing worthy of praise is the accuracy. What is deduced will definitely work, and there will be no chance of going the wrong way. The science geek is overjoyed. You should go find Orochimaru. Why are you looking for me? Well, it's better to find him. After all, this is the key to his rise. The most important thing is this restriction. Once it is deduced, he will definitely learn it directly and it will be mandatory. He paid a heavy price. In order to deduce it, he looked through the ninjutsu that his parents had given him in this world, not to mention there were so many. The most common ones are various types of sealing techniques. He didn't remember that his parents had ever been in the sealing class in this life, until he found such an entry in his father's diary. If you unlock the Nine-Tails seal and seal it on yourself to become a Jinchuriki, can Uchiha become Hokage with the power of the Nine Tails? I never expected that his parents were radicals, so radical that they could predict the future. As a member of the Uchiha radical faction, it is really a blessing. Mito was not dead at that time, they left first. Play with your balls. Not to mention the radicals and so on, let's just say that he got a lot of sealing techniques and studied them day and night. Then he didn't understand it, but he remembered it, and then he had a sudden idea. If the sealing technique is the main one, the extraction of chakra is replaced by the accumulation of chakra, which becomes a ninjutsu similar to internal strength. When mobilizing chakra, just change the sealing technique and mobilize it at will. Goldfinger said it was very exciting. A chakra seal version of basic chakra inner strength was born. Chakra internal power can delay aging, increase body recovery, and enhance physical fitness. A proper variant of Tsunade's yin seal. It would be fine if it was just like this, but his basic internal strength is so overbearing that chakra cannot be eliminated from the body. As long as it is expelled from the body, the basic internal energy will even forcefully absorb it back. This has resulted in ninjutsu becoming a delusion. Forced to learn, there is no room for him to regret. Jin's tears were almost dry. This is not the most extreme thing. The most egregious thing is, if you want to improve deeply, you need to let others raise the upper limit. Goldfinger, just be a human being. He is not human. That's fine. Uchiha Gold. What can he do? He is helpless. The basic chakra internal strength he designed is divided into levels, and the seal needs to be expanded bit by bit. From physical fitness to lifespan, it can be comprehensively enhanced. If it is extended to the whole body, normal ninjutsu can be used. What kind of rubbish game routine is this? Destroy this world. Jin looked devastated. Ninja school. My name is Jin, and as you can see I'm an Uchiha, although they don't want to admit it. Jin spread his hands with an indifferent attitude, which made the Uchiha students in the class glare at him. If it weren't for Inoue-sensei standing above him, he would have given him a good look. I have never seen an Uchiha whose talent is so rubbish. Wearing a green ninja vest and a Konoha forehead protector around his neck, Inoue Satoru, who was young but had white hair, said, ahem. He coughed twice and felt a pain in his forehead. He didn't even think about it. This was a problem, student. There is already one in the class, but having one more is actually a big problem. Classmate Jin has finished the introduction. You can sit down now. Jin sat down with his arms folded, his ears twitching slightly as he heard whispers in his ears. The basic internal strength has been strengthened in all aspects, and the ear power is naturally not weak. Isn't he the Uchiha who didn't pass the ninja exam in 2 years? Why are you in our class? That's right. Didn't you say that those who failed the exam went to Class C? The ninja school is divided into 3 classes, A, B, C. Although on the surface there is no difference between the 3 classes, the actual result is that Class A is mostly composed of ninja children or civilian children with outstanding achievements. Class B consists of a small number of ninjas with poor talent and most civilians. For example, a certain Uchiha has never been released in ninjutsu and has been in Class B all year round, but this time he was sent to Class A. Don't know what the hell is going on. As for Class C, that is the strongest class. After all, those who returned from the ninja ranks and returned to ninja school went to Class C. When he was a student, he was king and dominated, but when he was a ninja, he always produced waste. Commonly known as garbage concentration camp. In theory, Jin, who is recognized as an Uchiha, should go to Class C. He failed the first test and was retained back to Class B because of his identity as an Uchiha. Even the name Uchiha should be useless this time, right? Why was he sent back to Class A? No matter what the reason was, Jin didn't care anyway, but was very happy. Because. Jin turned to look at the blonde boy next to him and smiled with his teeth. Hey, you must be Namikaze Minato. I heard that you always top the list. Namikaze Minato looked at Jinpei's smiling face, but instead showed a perfect sunny smile in response. It's really the tit-for-tat confrontation between evil and justice. Jin, I am definitely not the evil one. It's just the result of hard work. Senior Jin, please give me your advice this year. Easy to say, easy to say. Jin patted Minato Namikaze on the shoulder and said that I will protect you for the next year. At this moment, a murderous intention came from behind. Jin turned his head and saw a girl with flying red hair looking at him murderously. She was slowly saying something from the corner of her mouth, but no sound was heard. Jin was able to read lips based on the ninja's basic reading skills. What do you want to do to my little brother? Jin also showed her what he thought was a bright smile and gave her a thumbs up. Bump. Uzumaki Kushina slammed her fist on the table angrily, attracting the attention of everyone in the class. Kushina's blood-red peppers are not just famous. Start a fight directly. What are you looking at? Everyone turned their heads in shock. This was the ancestor who had beaten the genin before leaving the ninja school. Kushina is in class now. Inoue Satoru reminded, this little ant is something she cannot afford to offend. The class continued without any reaction from Kushina. Jin ignored the aggressive gaze behind him and felt a little drowsy while listening to the class. In this class, only these two people are familiar with each other, and the others have no impression at all. A certain Red Hot Chili Peppers' default younger brother, Minato Namikaze, gave Jin an apologetic smile. Jin felt that the murderous aura in his eyes was almost overflowing. But it doesn't matter, he is so sleepy now. Jin fell asleep soundly amid the murderous aura and Inoue Satoru's lecture. There is no need to listen. Although the final year classes are intense, they actually only have 3 contents. The first and most common is the Will of Fire brainwashing. It tells how the 3rd generation Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen developed the village, plus a small number of the 1st generation Hokage and the heroic sacrifices of the 2nd generation Hokage since they created the village. As for other achievements, they are not in the textbooks and you need to find them yourself. After all, how could Sarutobi Hiruzen, known as the strongest Hokage, be comparable to his predecessor? The other courses are ninjutsu training and battle drills. Wait until the school bell rings. Several Uchiha clan members wanted to cause trouble for Jin. After all, as an Uchiha clan member, he had no talent for ninjutsu. It was too embarrassing. It would be better to force him to drop out of school. Unfortunately, the option of dropping out of school never existed for Uchiha. That's the preserve of civilian students. The path at dusk. Teenagers and girls are walking on their way home. The light of dusk illuminated the side of Kushina's face, giving it a hint of brilliance and a sense of sanctity. Namikaze Minato's face turned slightly red. Kushina didn't realize anything was wrong but was furious. Minato, you are my little brother, don't give that a good look. This was her only little brother, how could he be snatched away by someone else? Looking at Namikaze Minato, who was blushing slightly, she was a little bit criticized for being a bit effeminate. At this time, the tree the two passed by suddenly folded down, and Kushina was so frightened that she screamed, "Ah!" and hid behind Namikaze Minato. When she saw the person clearly, Kushina rushed up again, her hair waving with her teeth and claws in anger. You Uchiha! It turned out to be Uchiha Jinjung hanging upside down from a tree branch. After all, you were the first to say bad things about me. You were frightened by me, so you retaliate. I wasn't frightened, Kushina retorted forcefully. That's not the problem now. Jin looked at Kushina speechlessly. If he was a tsundere, he still liked the blonde girl. He looked at Namikaze Minato and said with a smile, Minato, do you want to have a friendly match between classmates? After all, it was Namikaze Minato, one of the few genius ninjas in the Naruto world, and he was eyeing it. Namikaze Minato scratched his head and wanted to refuse. He didn't like this kind of inexplicable discussion. Kushina gave up and put her hands on her hips to block Namikaze Minato. If you want to bully me, ask me first. No. Jin shook his head and refused. I'm afraid that if I make you cry, someone will come to trouble me. He was even more afraid that if the 9 tails inside her were stimulated, he would be in trouble. I'll beat you to tears first. Kushina rushed forward angrily and hit with a right hook. The fist was fast and heavy, and even made a swish sound. It's a pity that no matter how strong your fist is, it's useless if it can't hit someone. Jin just took a step back and just missed the right hook. Kushina followed up with a left hook, but he easily dodged it. No matter how violently Kushina attacked, Jin dodged left and right in the afterimage of her fist. Apart from the wind blowing his hair, no injuries were caused. Until Kushina stopped and panted. Jin didn't even shed a drop of sweat, with a playful smile on his face. That's all. Asshole. Kushina was furious and kicked her with a right whip. Jin took a step back to avoid the whip and stretched out his left foot to kick her left leg, causing her body to lose balance instantly and spin in the air, on the ground. Jin clasped his hands behind his back, looking like a master. This is called the flat sand and falling wild goose pose. I'm going to kill you. Kushina was furious and wanted to give Jin a hard blow, but was hugged by Namikaze Minato, who caught up. You are no match for him, I will help you get revenge. Kushina looked at Namikaze Minato with suspicion, and Namikaze Minato showed a sunny smile, which made her feel the other party's confidence. Minato, beat him to death. Kushina yelled. Namikaze Minato smiled confidently, let go of her and walked towards Jin. The two stood opposite each other. A gentle breeze blew. There were no words, and the next moment the two of them moved. It turned into two black shadows that collided rapidly, and the fists and feet clashed, causing a gust of wind to blow Kushina's red hair and clothes. She watched dumbfounded as the two exchanged quick blows. That's amazing. Is this really a student of ninja school? There was Namikaze Minato, who was ranked number 1 all year round, and Uchiha Jin, who was called a waste. Their taijutsu even surpassed that of ordinary genin. Although she can also fight, she relies entirely on her physical fitness. The two people in front of me were all about speed and skill. However, Namikaze Minato's heart was heavy during the battle. Too big. Every time he collided with Jin, the opponent's fists and kicks were extremely heavy. If the opponent hadn't been wearing half sleeves, he would have thought there was iron hidden in the sleeves. Also, the other party's nervous reaction is too fast. Jin is completely like a machine dedicated to killing. He switches between offense and defense very quickly, and he can dodge every attack he makes. That's right, he avoided it. From the beginning to now, he didn't hit anyone at all, he was always being beaten. Jin punched Namikaze Minato in the face. Pung! Namikaze Minato instantly turned into smoke and turned into wood, and the figure came out from behind Jin and kicked him. Between the lightning and flint, Jin pressed his hands on the wood to lift his whole body up, and with a spinning kick, he kicked Namikaze Minato in the chest and kicked him backwards. Boom! Namikaze Minato slid on the ground for a while and hurriedly adjusted his body shape, half kneeling on the ground. A sharp kunai was pressed against his forehead. Namikaze Minato looked up and saw Jin's bright smile, lips parting slightly. You lose. Namikaze Minato scratched his head, not feeling discouraged but smiling brightly. I lost. Then he looked at Uzumaki Kushina who was stunned there and said awkwardly, I don't seem to be able to beat Jin-senpai. It's nothing special for him to bully the younger ones. Uzumaki Kushina did not complain about Namikaze Minato, but showed disdain for Uchiha Jin who bullied the younger ones. There is 2 age difference between the two. However, Namikaze Minato said to Uzumaki Kushina with a serious face, if you lose, you lose. Looking at Namikaze Minato with a serious face, Kushina turned her head away. Don't be so absolute. There is a secret to my strength. Do you want to learn it? Jin then revealed his fox tail. I'll teach you. Teaching. Inside the Hokage building, Hiruzen Sarutobi, who was in his prime, exhaled a long puff of smoke from his mouth and held the recent Fire Nation border information in his other hand. Hiruzen, I don't understand why you put such a waste in Class A. It's a waste of teaching resources. Mito Kadon had a puzzled look on his face, and Kaharu also cast doubtful glances at Sarutobi Hiruzen when he went to bed. Uchiha has produced a ninja who cannot use ninjutsu, and this news has spread throughout Konoha. After all, Uchiha, who has always been a genius, has an unprecedented waist, which is somewhat eye-catching. What the two of them were confused about was not that Uchiha Jin was put into Class A, but that Sarutobi Hiruzen specifically ordered this matter. It was also about Uchiha, and they had to ask. After all, in a sense, Uchiha is the unstable element of the village. Uchiha and the village need a communication channel. Hiruzen put down the document in his hand and said in a deep voice, maybe he is an opportunity for us to communicate with Uchiha. The important thing is that there is no threat. A non-threatening Uchiha is the best bridge between the village and the Uchiha clan. Although there were frequent misfortunes in the later period, and he is very happy now, Hiruzen Sarutobi really wants to twist the village into one, and even Uchiha is a part of the village, right? I hope so. Mito Kadoyan and Kaharu, who has been transferred to another dormitory, don't hold out much hope. After all, those arrogant Uchiha refused to have too much communication with the village, although there were also institutional reasons why the teacher Senju Tobarama left behind. There are also things that these people have slightly targeted, but how could the fault be on them? Where's Danzo? Mito Kadoyan looked around curiously. Normally, once something happened to Uchiha, he would show up immediately, but this time he didn't see anyone. That was the person who truly inherited the teacher's ill will toward Uchiha. His threat is too low. Sarutobi Hiruzen pointed out. Uchiha Jin's talent has no meaning at all to Danzo. He can't release ninjutsu, and he hasn't even opened his eyes yet. He didn't even bother to pay attention to these little things. He had no intention of participating in building a bridge with Uchiha. Danzo thought it was impossible anyway. Just then a figure suddenly appeared in the office. The masked Anbu half knelt on the ground and said respectfully, "Lord Hokage, Uchiha Jin has touched the Jinchuriki." Everyone's expressions became heavy at this moment. The incident of Uchiha Madara controlling the Kyuubi to attack the village was still fresh in their memory. Once an Uchiha approaches Kyuubi, it is tantamount to provoking their cordon. "Don't worry about it," Sarutobi Hiruzen spoke calmly, as if he didn't care about the threat that Uchiha Madara once faced. Laugh to death. An Uchiha who can't use ninjutsu is no threat at all. Yes. The ANBU's figure turned into smoke and disappeared. "I hope you made the right choice, Hiruzen." After sleeping, Kaharu looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen with a faint look. He didn't even interfere when Uchiha came into contact with the Kyuubi, and it was obvious that he was determined to support the Uchiha Jin. It's just that the Uchiha clan may not accept it, and may even consider it an insult. This possibility is very high. It's a pity that none of them are Hokage. You are Hokage after all. Hope so. Sarutobi Hiruzen turned his head and looked at the window. The appearance of Konoha village came into his eyes at a glance. Compared with the liveliness before, it was a little more desolate. Compared with the second generation, the village is indeed much depressed now. Village. Jin took Namikaze Minato and the two to an empty creek. His eyes inadvertently swept across the trees in the distance, and his keen senses found several figures hidden in the trees. He just pretended not to notice. After all, they didn't expect him to have such ability. This is a specially chosen place. If you want to monitor, you must not be exposed. The surrounding area is wide and you can see the whole creek at a glance. There is basically no possibility of hiding. Unless it was a Toritsu, the Moonlight clan was very sparse and would not be used to guard or monitor Jinchuriki. Naturally, his main purpose in searching here specifically was to hide the conversation between the three of them. "Well, isn't it good for us to learn Uchiha's ninjutsu?" Namikaze Minato was very worried. Hearing that they were going to teach them ninjutsu, he was brought here by Jin in a fool's errand. After all, he was born as a commoner, but he didn't have any ninjutsu to learn, only the school's 3 body skills. When I heard about ninjutsu learning, I felt a little dazed. But when he got there, he felt a little regretful. Is learning Uchiha's ninjutsu considered stealing? Is this unethical? Morality and expectations are intertwined. In short, the emotions are very complicated. Relax, it's not Uchiha's ninjutsu, I inherited it from my parents. Jin comforted Minato Namikaze. If he said he created it, it would probably scare them both away. But senior, can't you use ninjutsu? Namikaze Minato was also a little confused. He had heard of Uchiha Jin's name. Kushina couldn't help but pricked up her ears and listened. It's hard to explain this matter. Jin lamented, looking up at the sky at 45 degrees, his brain working rapidly to find reasons. I quickly thought of my words. The learning conditions for the ninjutsu I obtained are not high, but the conditions are harsh. If you don't reach a certain level, you won't be able to release the ninjutsu. That's why I ended up like this, but I'm about to break through and be able to use ninjutsu. If you are afraid that your talent is too low, then forget it. Jin's contemptuous look made Kushina instantly angry. Whoever has low talent, show it out and I will surpass you immediately. Wait, Kushina. Namikaze Minato hurriedly grabbed the angry pepper and asked Jin Shao embarrassedly. Senior Jin, what is the function of this ninjutsu? He was still confident about his talent Namikaze Minato, but he also had some worries. If he couldn't use ninjutsu, the result would be sad. Ninjas themselves rely on ninjutsu to survive. Without ninjutsu, they are no different from tigers with their teeth pulled out. Jin smiled, hee, you have already seen part of the effect. Namikaze Minato was thoughtful. Strength, speed, and reflexes all seemed to be a bit beyond those of ordinary genin. In the duel just now, it could be said that Jin had always given way to him, and he could feel it. After all, the speed at which he could easily dodge attacks was really incomprehensible to him. Not only that, it can also nourish your skin and extend your life. If you break through, you will have 100% control over chakra. Both of them widened their eyes at the same time. Namikaze Minato, 100% chakra control. Kushina, nurture your beauty. Why is this getting more and more outrageous? Can ninjutsu really do this? Jinya was already ready. He took out a small notebook from his pocket and handed it to Minato. I'll give you a look first. The two of them flipped through it together, carefully looking at the text on page after page and the figure of the human body at the end. Namikaze Minato found it difficult to understand a lot of ninjutsu above. Kushina let out a light sigh. Are you doing a sealing technique? The sealing technique can still be like this. Compared to Namikaze Minato, Kushina has a lot of remaining sealing techniques from the Uzumaki clan in her mind, and it is easier to understand them. Moreover, there were detailed instructions on how to use it. She calculated its effects in her mind. She didn't know if it could improve her beauty and longevity, but she could achieve other things. But how come your sealing technique connects three of them? Of course there are things she doesn't understand. That is the point of breakthrough. It is essentially the fusion of three sealing techniques. Every time a sealing technique is completed, there will be a qualitative breakthrough. Namikaze Minato couldn't help but ask. Can Kushina really complete this technique? Because although the meaning above is not clear, the steps are introduced in detail, which can be called foolproof instruction. Theoretically it's okay, but in practice I don't know. Kushina glanced at Jin. This guy should be practical. Considered for a moment. If you really follow the description above, you can achieve the effect he said. Of the three sealing techniques, the first is easy, the second is 10 times more difficult, and the third is 10 times more difficult. Namikaze Minato held his notes. What was the most important thing for civilian ninjas like them? It must be ninjutsu. No civilian ninja could treat ninjutsu calmly. And this one is so magical. The more excited he became, the calmer he became. He raised his head and asked Jin. Senior teaches us so easily, what's the purpose? Although he really wanted to believe that a village loves each other and is a family, but his reason made him understand that the other party must have a purpose for releasing this ninjutsu. He, a commoner, had something that the other party wanted. He glanced at Kushina, who was still thinking, and took the lead to stand in front of her. However, Jin didn't notice it, but pondered. He just wanted to find someone to learn ninjutsu and quickly break through so that he would not maintain the embarrassing situation he was in now. What can he do about this deceptive restriction? But we can't talk about the golden finger thing. If this is something shameless, you can actually turn your back on it and go home to practice on your own after reading it. Although it has no influence on him, he still likes people like Namikaze Minato to be self-conscious. There must be different words. He raised a finger. Namikaze Minato, I am optimistic about your future, so as long as you promise me, you will do one thing for me in the future without violating your bottom line. Namikaze Minato fell into deep thought. What the other party said was reasonable. What a ghost. This kind of thing has never happened in the ninja world, right? He didn't remember it. But if that's all, I promise you, as long as it doesn't violate my principles, I can do one thing for you in the future. King held out his hand. Then it's a deal. Namikaze Minato also extended his hand. Make a deal. The two of them laughed happily at the same time, but Minato Namikaze felt a little heavy in his heart. Jin's heart was filled with joy. The basic internal strength of chakra that limited him for so long. The hope of a breakthrough appeared. The next day, at the training ground of the ninja school. Namikaze Minato was very worried. The first level of that ninjutsu was indeed very easy. In one night, he easily completed the sealing technique called Pagan Realm. Then all three body techniques become ineffective. As long as the chakra exceeds the surface of the skin, the seal will generate strong suction to absorb the chakra back into the body, causing the ninjutsu to become ineffective. However, as chakra accumulates in the seal, the body's sensitivity to the outside world has increased significantly, and the physical skills have naturally improved a lot, but ninjutsu cannot be used. I don't know if it is considered to be enhanced or weakened. Regarding today's ninja battle course, he was not as confident as before. He couldn't help but look in the direction of Uchiha Jin. Senior Jin was lying on his side under the tree. The shade of the big tree shines on me, and with the regular breathing, I feel quite peaceful. Don't be peaceful. Senior Jin, please wash away the shame of your past. Teacher Inoue's face over there has turned dark. Get up quickly. Namikaze Minato was screaming in his heart. I hate problem students. Inoue Satoru's face turned black to coal, and the pen in his hand that recorded the student's performance was pinched off by his thumb and index finger. He quickly took out a new pencil from the ninja bag on his leg. For problem students, the most important thing to prepare is these stationery. You can't vent your temper on students. What a dishonest teacher that is. Look at the name above and the evaluation that needs to be written later. He really wanted to put a cross on Jin's combat test, but his sense of responsibility as a teacher in his heart stopped him. Looking at the other cute students, I felt a little relieved. So why do students who were sent back to ninja school to retake classes come to class A? He just didn't understand. But no matter how hard you don't understand, you still have to attend the class. Today you will train in pairs, each looking for an opponent. I will rate your performance. Inoue told his students about today's lesson. To be more precise, it takes a day. This not only tests their fighting ability, but also their endurance, ultimate strength, and physical fitness. After a day of fighting, they can basically reach their limit. As for damage to the body due to young age, that is not something that their ninjas should consider. The ninja school exams now are not as gentle as they will be in the future. Start now. As soon as Inoue Satoru's voice fell, everyone began to look for their opponents. Several Uchiha tribesmen were eager to walk towards someone, wanting to teach him a profound and unforgettable lesson. Namikaze Minato couldn't care about Jin anymore because someone was targeting him. Hyuga Kyo of the Hyuga clan, please give me some advice. Hinata Kyo's eyes were fixed on Namikaze Minato. Namikaze Minato, who has always dominated the rankings, is not without enemies. Hyuga Kiyoshi, who has always been ranked second, has always wanted to surpass him. No matter how the name of the second child of Wanian sounds good, today is the time for him to wash away his shame. Minato Namikaze looked at Hinata and scratched his face. Although he didn't know how much he had improved, Hinata, who only used soft fists, was no match for him. He actually wanted to find Senior Jin to spar with. Slightly hesitant advice. How about you change your opponent? You can't beat me now. Namikaze Minato was sincere, and he could only blame the Hyuga family for being too weird. They could use ninjutsu, but if they didn't, they would be willful. If he relied solely on physical skills, he would have improved a lot. Hinata Ching put on his posture expressionlessly, and soon anger appeared on his face. Only you, Namikaze Minato. Unforgivable. The other side. Jin's eyes were half opened as he was about to fall asleep, and several Uchiha people had already surrounded him. The crew-cut Uchiha looked down at him. Kin Uchiha, if you still have the pride of the Uchiha clan, fight me in a duel. The loser will quit the ninja school. The scum of Uchiha cannot exist in the ninja school. Jin dug his ears with his little finger. These Uchiha have no brains at all. It's not like he had never done anything about dropping out of school before, but he was dismissed on the spot. Wouldn't it be nice for him not to be a ninja, but to be a rich man or a chaebol? Who likes being this shit ninja? It's not like there's no way. Not to mention that Uchiha does not allow clan members who can refine chakra to become ordinary people. Even Konoha village will not let any Uchiha who can become a ninja go. Actually, Jin looked at Uchiha Hiru shyly. I can change my surname to Hinata when I get married. When Uchiha Hiru heard this, he was shocked at first, and then furious. You. Thing at go to hell. If it weren't for the two Uchihas next to them, it wouldn't be a competition, it would be a matter of life and death. Saying to change your surname to Hinata in front of Uchiha is no different from saying that Senju Hashirama is trash in front of Uchiha Madara. The other two Uchihas didn't look very good either. Carry the next one out. Jin yawned. The long-haired Uchiha Waidu looked at him expressionlessly, and the other Uchiha Waei pulled Hiru to prevent him from coming up to fight. Your parents can give birth to a person like you. Uchiha couldn't speak anymore for Du, and Jin opened his eyes completely. His eyes changed at this moment, becoming extremely fascinating, and his black pupils were like abyss. He couldn't help but take a step back. But when he retreated, he glared at Jin with annoyance on his face. But Jin, who is clearly in front of him, actually disappeared. Wei-Du felt a chill and turned around to see that it was Jin blowing on his neck from behind. Is he sick? Just when he was about to say something else, the kunai was faster and placed on his neck. You. At this moment, he felt a venomous snake crawling up behind him, opening its mouth and about to bite him. Ah! Uchiha cried out in fear for Du, which also attracted his attention. After all, there has never been such a scream during training. Jin put his left hand on Uchiha Waidu's shoulder. Let's play, let's make trouble, don't make fun of your parents, you don't want to die here, right? Okay. Inoue pressed Jin's arm with his hand and looked at the problem student helplessly. Don't show murderous intent towards your companions. He realized something was wrong at the first moment. He felt that the aura shown by Jin, the murderous intention to kill, was unmistakable. This kind of murderous intention requires years of fighting wild beasts. Because there is no life in his hands, he can't kill. There is no murderous intention. But it is enough to intimidate the students of ninja school. I didn't expect students to work so hard on this problem. I'm kidding, Iguchi-sensei. Jin smiled playfully at Inoue. Inoue Satoru had blue veins popping out on his forehead. It's Inoue. Okay, teacher Jingshui. He definitely did it on purpose. On the other side, Namikaze Minato looked at Hinata Kyo, who fell to the ground and clenched his fist. It's really an incredible ability. Hinata Ching looked at the increasingly hot sun in the sky and doubted his life. The Hyuga family's soft fist was actually crushed by the powerful hard fist. Obviously it shouldn't be like this. His soft fist was even beyond the standard, but Minato Namikaze's fist seemed to have great power. Just a few touches made his arm bruised and swollen. Of course, he was also eliminated in a few strokes. Why is the gap so big? Namikaze Minato even gave him the feeling of facing the Chunin of his family. Sorry, I was a bit harsh. Namikaze Minato smiled apologetically at Hinata Kiyoshi and stretched out his hand to help him up. Hinata Ching looked at the hand in front of him and Minato Namikaze's sunny smile. Cried. Congratulations to Namikaze Minato for completing the murderous heartbreaking achievement. Those guys are too weak, I took care of them in a few or two, ha ha ha. Kushina faced the stream with her hands on her hips. With a wild smile on his face. Jin looked at Namikaze Minato with doubtful eyes. What do you like about this thing? She kills people without batting an eye, or she has a bad temper and hits people indiscriminately. Namikaze Minato understood and turned his head with a slightly red face. You're blushing like a bubble teapot. Kushina suddenly turned to look at Jin. She felt that Jin was saying bad things about her, but she didn't hear it. Jin's eyes were erratic, and she had a woman's sixth sense. Although Kushina was still a Lolita, her abilities were regardless of age. Kushina glanced at the blushing Minato Namikaze with a look of disgust. Why is her little brother such a girl? Use your manliness and beat that Uchiha to death. Seeing that the atmosphere was not right, Minato Namikaze changed the subject. Ninjutsu class is tomorrow, what should we do? He was quite worried about tomorrow's ninjutsu class, because he couldn't perform any ninjutsu right now. Although Kushina also struggled to complete the first stage of the sealing technique, she was not worried about it at all. How dare Inoue Satoru dare to embarrass her? Relax. Jin patted Namikaze Minato on the shoulder. The last year is mostly about the theory of ninjutsu, mixed with intelligence theft, concealment and other private activities, as long as you are not cheap. If you have to demonstrate it, no one will find it. The knowledge and theory of ninjutsu is the knowledge arranged by the school, while other private goods are the teacher's skills to help the students survive smoothly on the battlefield. Basically, there is nothing you need to do. The content in the last year can be used all the way to Genin. If you are in Class A, you may be able to use it to Chunin. Although he was comforted, Namikaze Minato was still worried. As a top student, the chance of someone else's child being dragged to demonstrate is not small. It is different from the stable ninja school. The battle cries on the front line echoed and intertwined. Brilliant ninjutsu exploded in the mountains, and detonating symbols appeared one after another. There was a miserable and tragic scream. Stop it! Stop it! I told you to stop it! Tsunade's sharp voice revealed pain, and she showed no sign of stopping the palm senjutsu in her hand. The ninja next to him couldn't help but persuade. Stop, he's already dead. Tsunade's face froze, as if something was gnawing at her heart, and she couldn't help but scream. What? Like a mournful cuckoo bird. Orochimaru stood on the tree, looking at his dead disciples and teammates screaming in despair. He didn't even know what expression he should show, as if it wasn't just his disciples who died, but also he himself. Human beings are really easily destroyed. The grandson of the first Hokage, the disciple of elite Jonin Orochimaru, and the younger brother of elite Jonin Tsunade. Rope tree. Declared dead. Jin and Namikaze Minato exchanged their experiences on practicing basic internal skills. Jin was talking most of the time, and Minato Namikaze was listening. The details include how to accumulate chakra, how to improve combat power, and how to strengthen the body over time. Jin also shared his experience. Namikaze Minato looked seriously thinking about the details. Uzumaki Kushina also had a serious look on her face. It was very difficult for her to complete the first level. The Nine Tails chakra in her body would always cause trouble, but she had not yet surrendered to the Nine Tails. However, basic internal strength can actually help her stabilize the seal in her body, which makes her even more interested in this secret technique. It can be said that Jin Wei put a lot of effort into these two people. As long as one of them successfully advances, then Jin can also advance smoothly. And the benefits of teaching others what you have deduced are not just as simple as being able to advance. The knowledge generated by these people's practice will appear in their minds in a way that they cannot understand, and become the underlying logical code for future deductions. He only found out about this after Namikaze Minato and the two entered the house last night. There wasn't much that could be communicated on the first level, and it was all said quickly. Say goodbye to the two of them with expectations for the future. See you tomorrow. Minato Namikaze waved with a smile on his face, and Kushina Uzumaki turned her head away with a pout. She looked at Minato Namikaze, who was saying hello without getting angry, so she grabbed him and headed home. She felt like her little brother was being snatched away by some nasty Uchiha. Very angry. Tsunere girl, gentle man, tisk tisk. Jin touched his chin and sighed as he looked at the two people in the distance. This kind of combination is an old routine, where the person who doesn't understand emotions at all becomes the woman. It can be considered an innovation. But he also wants to find a arrogant blonde, gentle, dark and straight, as long as he is careful not to let them meet. Looking at the dim sky, the breeze blows, bringing a bit of coolness. Jin walked towards the Uchiha clan. Today's Uchiha tribe is still in the heart of Konoha village. Although there was a rebellion in the second generation and it moved some distance from the center of Konoha, it is still in a prosperous area. As for reaching the edge in the later stage, it is because of Kyuubi. After all, the pair of Sharingan eyes on the Kyuubi in the later period really made Uchiha lose his crotch, which cannot be explained. As soon as he entered the clan area, Jin was stopped by someone. That's him, brother Yashara. Uchiha Hiru pointed at Jin angrily at a man with short brown hair and unique lines on both sides of his eyes. Not only did Jin not be bullied, but he was also allowed to sleep peacefully for one class. This also resulted in Kim's rating being 0. These three little carrot heads came here to find trouble. He immediately called for a Jonin to come over. Was he looking for trouble or trying to kill someone? And he found the wrong person. Brother Yashara, they bullied me. Jin immediately changed his aggrieved expression and shed tears as fast as he could without any ambiguity. Who wouldn't say that this child is so pitiful? But this does not include Yashara. Shaojin, you've used this trick many times, why don't you at least try another one? Yashara scratched his face a little embarrassed. At least don't be so perfunctory. In this situation, Jin comes at least 5 or 6 times a year. He is no longer the Yashara who is so easily deceived. Hey! Jin curled his lips. Brother Yashara, he's yelling at you. Hiroshi pointed at Jin crazily, his face as anxious as a dog seeing a bone that he couldn't eat alive. At first, seeing Yashara's attitude, he thought he couldn't help them collect money, but now he finally saw hope. Kahiro. Yashara touched Hiru's head. Uchiha cannot bully the weak. This is wrong. It's a pity that this person is a gentle Yashara. Okay, Uncle Yashara, if you have nothing to do, leave as soon as possible. Our children's affairs will be solved by ourselves. Jin drove Yashara away with an impatient look. This made Yashara sigh helplessly. When he was in use, he was Yashara's elder brother, and when he was not in use, he was Yashara's uncle. This kid is so realistic. You should respect me a little bit. Can you leave? Jin bared his teeth in a threatening gesture. Yashara was also helpless. If he dared to meddle in his own business here, Jin would dare to speak ill of him to his wife. Jin had done this before, but that was before they got married. Now they are married. A Junin like him can still be afraid of a ninja school student like him. Okay, I'm leaving. I'm leaving right now. Yashara had just gotten married not long ago, so he couldn't let this little come here to cause trouble again, and he was also dragged here by force. Uchiha has to get back what he has lost. He was not worried about Jin. Although Jin could not use ninjutsu, his physical skills were not weak. When he patrolled the forest, he saw Jin fighting with ferocious beasts. This guy actually works hard, but it's a pity that he only has this talent. Don't go too far, Yashara said anyway. Don't worry, brother Yashara, we won't go too far. The three of them smiled grimly. This is not a school where one-on-one is required. Seeing Jin's ability against Wei Du, they really didn't have confidence in one-on-one. They were not stupid, so they turned around and looked for someone. But no one is helping them to stand up, so don't blame them for joining forces. He said it to me. Jin's voice suddenly appeared in Joe's ears, and Jin was standing behind him holding a knife. When, a hand knife fell, Joe rolled his eyes and fell to the ground. You guy. Uchiha fearlessly took out his kunai and rushed forward. Jin moved half of his body to avoid Fearless's attack and kneed him in the stomach. Wei rolled his eyes and fell to the ground unconscious. His eyes looked at Uchiha Waitu, who also took out a kunai. Seeing Jin looking over, he threw the kunai in his hand to the ground and lay down on the ground. Uchiha did not suffer the immediate loss. Clever. Jin clapped his hands. Yashara, who hadn't gone far yet, turned around and saw that the winner had already been decided. It's a pity that ninjas only have taijutsu but cannot become strong. Jin will suffer a lot in the future. Jin-Kei didn't care what they were thinking, nor did he care about the three lying on the ground walking slowly towards home. Go home. Jin started to prepare today's dinner. After working in the kitchen for a long time, he made some dishes from his previous life. The main reason is that there are really few types of food in Naruto world. There are just a few that come and go, and I get tired of eating them. Although ordinary ninjas eat instant noodles to survive, he came from a country of gourmet food and could not live without eating instant noodles every day. If I don't succeed in cultivating immortality, I will find a way to retire. I will definitely make money by opening a store. The purpose of setting up basic internal skills is to transform into an immortal in the future. This world has natural chakra, and none of the immortals in several psychic holy places have lived for thousands of years. Theoretically, it is possible to cultivate immortality by relying on the magic of chakra. Not to mention the one hanging in the sky, immortal and immortal. Even the solution was to be sealed instead of killed. There is great potential for cultivating immortality. Carrying the dish, he returned to the living room. He originally wanted to have a delicious meal, but a young man with short black hair appeared in the living room, and the expression on Jin's face disappeared. Putting the dishes on the table, he sat upright opposite the young man. I don't know why young clan chief Fugaku is here. Uchiha Fugaku, the only son of the current clan leader, is also an important factor in succeeding Uchiha in the future and leading Uchiha into destruction. However, as a figure who has become a fringe Uchiha due to his talent, he would generally not attract the attention of the young clan leader. Although his parents were very popular in Uchiha, there were only a few people who showed kindness to him, not including the clan leader's family. Have you been in contact with Uzumaki Kushina recently? Fugaku's voice was very dull. So what? It has nothing to do with the family. Jin also realized that the other party's real purpose of coming to him was because of Kushina, who was the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. Tailed beasts are strategic weapons and will inevitably attract the attention of many people, including Uchiha. Senju Hashirama's behavior of distributing the tailed beasts peacefully is not problematic in nature, but the key is that the tailed beasts cannot achieve devastating damage. Every village has the power to resist the tailed beasts. Naturally, each village is worried about the dangers of the tailed beasts, but if they are not so afraid, the tailed beasts will not be a deterrent. Try using a nuclear bomb. If everyone has a nuclear bomb, whoever dares to use it will destroy the entire village. Looking at Jin, who was disapproving, Fugaku warned in a deep voice. Stay away from her. Uchiha couldn't bear the suspicion of the village. Jin didn't know about the Nine Tails Jinchuriki, but the higher-ups didn't know. Jin lost his usual playful smile and expression. He reached out and took the chopsticks in his hand, and the heads of the two chopsticks collided. Whoever I get close to has nothing to do with you. You are too lenient. Fugaku frowned slightly. He didn't like Uchiha with low talent like Jin. He probably understood that the weight of this name was not something that could be carried easily. This is an order. Order. Jin grinned, but there was no smile in his eyes. He slapped his chopsticks on the table. Young Patriarch Fugaku, you have a big face. Don't think that when you are called Young Patriarch, you are really the Patriarch. Ordering me. Why do you have to do this now? Just like Fugaku doesn't like Jin, Jin also looks down on Fugaku. He is indecisive and can't see the direction. He will bear half of the responsibility for Fugaku's downfall in the future. His son is still responsible for half of the rest. Without this family, Uchiha would have lived 50 more years. You. Fugaku slapped his hands on the table in anger, making a snap sound. The plates on the table trembled, and his face turned black. Jin continued to open his eyes and taunt without realizing it. Young Patriarch still wants to use this loser like me to establish his authority. You are really showing off to Uchiha. Me. Fugaku suppressed his anger. It was because he had too little contact with Jin. How could he fight with Jin if he was not good at speaking? I can't even scold him, but it would be really embarrassing to beat him. I won't leave the young patriarch to eat. After all, I haven't prepared bowls and chopsticks. Jin glanced at him and picked up the food with chopsticks. Humph. Fugaku snorted coldly and left unhappy. Only Jin was left with a pair of chopsticks to pick up the peanuts of Kung Pao chicken. You want to control me. You can't even become the clan leader. Dark clouds cover the sky and it rains continuously. It was clearly a sign of heavy rain, but there was not a trace of thunder. The three little ones who met at Kushina's house looked at the drizzle outside through the window. As for why you chose this place, you have to ask Kushina. I said you don't even prepare cakes when guests come to your house. Kim pounded the table to show his displeasure. Click. Kushina threw the plate on the table, and the fruits on it were scattered. She didn't look like she was in a good mood. It might have something to do with some annoying. Namikaze Minato was sitting upright, with a pig brother expression on his face. Jindu couldn't help but ask, Minato, how can you show such a lewd expression on your cute little face? Ah. Namikaze Minato looked at Jin with some doubts, and when he saw Kushina's disgusted expression, he struggled to smile. More obscene. Kushina was even more disgusted. Namikaze Minato lay on the table frustrated, feeling that his life was over. Kushina then took out a scroll from behind and threw it to Jin. This is for you. Jin grabbed it and opened it directly. It actually contained several sealing techniques that he had not included in his family. I don't owe you any favors. Kushina turned her head proudly and sat next to Namikaze Minato. After reading it here, you can't take it away. Although this sealing technique is the patent of the Uzumaki clan, with the demise of the Uzumaki clan, it already belongs to Konoha. If Jin is brought to Uchiha, it will definitely cause trouble. Kushina, who lives here alone, still understands this truth. So that's your purpose. Jin suddenly realized, no wonder Kushina invited them. He picked up the scroll in his hand and began to memorize it seriously. He now understands the sealing technique extremely well. Although he didn't understand it at first, after deducing the basic internal skills, all the relevant knowledge points will automatically appear in his mind, and he can teach it like a fool. Now he can call himself a master of sealing. There is nothing wrong with it, but he just can't use it. By the way, why are you on holiday today? Jin quickly memorized the above content. With the cheat finger of deduction, any knowledge can quickly become a backup, and you can study it again when you go back. The three of them got together here because the ninja school had an inexplicable holiday. Today was not the weekend yet. The scene became quiet, but no one answered Jin's question, so he couldn't help but look up at the two of them. Both Minato and Namikaze lowered their heads. Senior Naoki. Brother Shungshu died. Kushina finished speaking with a sad expression. From then on, the gentle brother who had always taken good care of him could no longer be seen. Today is the funeral of Nezuki-senpai. Namikaze Minato added later. What? Jin couldn't help but slapped his hand on the table and made a clink sound. His face was uncertain and unpredictable. The rope tree is actually dead. Do Kaime-senpai and Nusuke-senpai know each other? Minato Namikaze saw Kim looking so gloomy for the first time. I know him, but I'm not familiar with him. Jin shook his head. He was indeed in the same class as Shungshu, but how could he, a member of Class B, have the chance to meet the elites of Class A? This confused Namikaze Minato and Kushina, and they felt that Uchiha Jin was more concerned about the life and death of Naoki than they were. Jin fell into silence, his eyes quickly scanning the contents on the scroll. To him, whether the rope tree dies or not has nothing to do with him, but the time when the rope tree dies has a fatal impact on him. He was a little vague about the timeline of Hokage in his previous life, but he was certain of one thing. After the death of Nezuki, it would be no more than a year before the Second Ninja War broke out. The most important thing is that the veteran Sarutobi Hiruzen lowered the graduation age and difficulty of graduation from the ninja school, allowing a large group of children to graduate early and serve as war cannon fodder. The First World War was not a big drain on Konoha, but the non-stop conflicts that followed consumed a lot of Konoha's ninjas. There are not enough people on the battlefield. In other words, he got the opportunity to enter the battlefield. But who would want this kind of opportunity? I have something to do, so I'll leave first. Jin put down the scroll in his hand. He had already recorded all the deductions in his golden finger. You haven't finished reading it yet. Without hearing what Kushina said, Jin had already rushed out the door quickly. The two looked at each other, completely confused as to what was going on with Jin. Heavy rain eroded the earth. Jin squatted on top of the telephone pole and looked down. A figure wearing green tights was lying in the grass, and with great effort, he took out a cat from inside. Don't be afraid, I will send you back to your master right away. The bearded man stuffed the cat into his clothes and used his body to block the rain from the sky. Unfortunately, the soaked clothes were not a good shelter from the rain. The kitten's head emerged from the man's collar and stayed there quietly and obediently. We really came here. Jin sighed in his heart. Matt Dai, he had been looking for this man for a long time. It was not that easy to find an unknown genin with no reputation in the village. After all, although he worked hard enough, he didn't work out as hard as his son because of his talent. He was a man that the whole of Konoha would remember. Jin's basic internal skills can be mastered quickly by those who are talented, but those who work hard may not be inferior to those who are talented. No one in Konoha village works as hard as Matt and his son. Matt Dai was naturally targeted by him, but it was a pity that it was a bit strange for a child from a ninja school to take the initiative to contact a genin. So I always wanted to find opportunities. It was him who sent Matt Dai the 2 missions to find cats. For example, the cat in his arms was actually a ninja cat in disguise. He had begged Grandma Cat for a long time before she agreed to let these ninja cats cooperate with him. Originally, I wanted to wait until a chance encounter with Matt Dai. Unfortunately, everything was disrupted by the death of the rope tree. For the sake of his own life, he no longer planned to find any coincidences. He fell lightly from the telephone pole to the ground. Uncle, that cat of yours is mine. Jin raised his head and endured the heavy rain hitting his face. Height is a flaw now, so I can only look up at Matt Dai. Ah. Matt Dai was a little confused. Why did his employer appear directly in front of him? Taking advantage of Matt Damon's circle, Jin shouted. Kitten. Matt's white kitten with a collar jumped on Jin's shoulder and meowed. Because he has deduced cat language, he can understand it. A year's worth of cat strips, or I'll expose everything about you. Good. It's true that people these days don't have a cat's heart and are not old-fashioned. The prices are rising from the ground up. I don't know if suing Grandma Cat is considered blackmail. Uncle, thank you for helping me find Xiaomei. I see that you are soaked all over. Come to my house and have a cup of hot tea. Jin didn't wait for Matt Dai to react, and grabbed Matt Dai and walked towards his home. Wait a minute, no need, this is my mission. Matt Dai stopped and refused quickly. I'll get the mission reward for you by the way. But, there are so many, but uncle, you look down on me. The golden eyebrows raised with anger, just enough for Matt Dai to see, and then exposed the flame fan on his back. Still look down on Uchiha. Uchiha. Matt Dai jumped up in fright. Sure enough, the Matt family is also very talented in comedy. I cannot. Let's go then. It's fun to bully honest people. The two of them walked into the Uchiha clan one after another. Nowadays, it is raining heavily, and there is no one in the Uchiha clan except for the open shops. As for attending the rope tree funeral, it is unlikely. After all, the village will not allow it, and the family does not want to involve the Thousand Hands clan. As he entered the Uchiha clan, Matt Dai was terrified, fearing that 2 police departments would come out to catch him. The reputation of the Uchiha police department was deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Fortunately, this kind of thing didn't happen. When he walked into a big house, Matt Dai was a little surprised. This place. No need to be restrained, I can live by myself. Jin entered from the entrance, bowed to the 2 black and white photos first, then turned to Matt Dai and said, "Sit wherever you want, I'll prepare some snacks for you." "Excuse me." Matt Dai quietly sat down where his clothes wouldn't get wet. Soon Jin placed tea and snacks on the table. "There is a bathroom upstairs. Uncle can go wash up and change clothes, and then go back when the rain stops." "Excuse me." The dizzy Matt Dai changed into regular clothes without the family emblem and knelt down on the tatami, not daring to touch the snacks and tea on the table. Jin, who had also washed himself, pushed a scroll over. "This is my reward. This is a little jutsu." Matt Dai reached out to take it, but hesitated and gritted his teeth. "Can this be exchanged for money from this mission? He came here to get the reward for finding the cat, he couldn't be greedy for other things." "I'm sorry." Jin looked sad. "I don't have enough money to pay this reward, this is the only ninjutsu." "That's no need." Matt Dai shook his head and raised his thumb with a smile on his face. "Young man, if you work hard to live, you don't have to pay the reward this time." Jin also showed a bright smile. "Then uncle, does he mean that we Uchiha are deadbeats and look down on us?" Matt Dai waved his hands quickly when he heard this. How could his words be so misinterpreted? "That was not what I meant." Then, Jin pointed to the scroll next to him. Metadai gave in and picked up the scroll. "Uncle, you have to study hard. You can learn that ninjutsu as long as you work hard." "Thank you very much." Jin's third victim left in a daze with a ninjutsu scroll, and an umbrella was forced into his hands by Jin. After Matt Dai left, Jin took out a small notebook. It was full of people's names, and he drew a circle behind Matt Dai's name. The other people who received this treatment were Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina. These are the people at this stage. In this era, Jin didn't know many people, and most of them didn't have the opportunity to learn basic internal skills. After all, he took out a secret technique and told those ninjas who had already formed combat power that it could enhance their combat effectiveness. They believe there are ghosts. These are the only ones that are easier to fool. He took a piece of pastry and put it into his mouth. The sweetness spread in the end of his mouth, and happiness filled his heart. So sweet. Just when he was about to take a piece, a cat's paw was placed on the back of his hand to stop him from taking it. The blue cat eyes stared at Jin and meowed. "Where's your promise? Where's your stretcher? What a mess." Xiao Miao rushed forward and grabbed wildly, but was suppressed by Jin with one hand. He was pressed on the table and struggled wildly. "Okay, 1 year's worth of cat strips, I'll buy them tomorrow." After hearing Jin's words, Xiao Miao gave up her struggle and was held in Jin's arms, stroking her fur. Cats are all about bargaining these days. It's not easy. Throwing the little cat on the ground, it flipped over and landed firmly. "Go and play by yourself, you can live here for the time being." There aren't any psychic beasts in Jin's house, except that he can't even find a ghost, so it doesn't matter if a cat lives there. Little Meow licked the meatball, not sure whether he heard it or not. Went up to the second floor and opened the storage room at home. "It's less than a year. I need to improve my combat effectiveness. In order to cope with possible battlefields in the future. His eyes glanced at the ninjutsu on the bookshelf, and there were scrolls arranged neatly on them. After all, this is a Jonin's house, so it's normal to have more ninjutsu. A small part is the ninjutsu obtained by completing tasks, such as the shadow clone technique, and the rest is divided into two parts. One part is the ninjutsu collected by the Uchiha clan, and the other part is the various sealing techniques. And these stocks are simply not comparable to the ninjutsu stored in Konoha. As for the Uchiha clan's ninjutsu inventory, although it is much larger than here, there are copies in Konoha's ninjutsu inventory. Next to the bookshelf, there is a round wooden table with 6 ninjutsu scrolls rotating on it. And these are ninjutsu that Jin spent a long time deducing. He didn't do anything when he was restricted. He glanced at the words on the scroll. Respectively. Shave, paper painting, finger gun, iron block, cat whispering, basic internal skills. He has already completed 4 of the 6 postures in the pirate world. Urashi and Tsukipo cannot complete them at all when chakra cannot be released. Or his physique doubled tenfold. In order to complete the 4 postures, he spent most of his time on this, and only now has he taught basic internal skills to others. If you want to teach others, you also need to have a guarantee, otherwise you will directly become a boy who makes money. These will be taught to him only when he has stronger techniques. It's not easy to think about these years. In order to complete the first 4 formulas, he first had to explore the possibilities bit by bit, then complete the theory, and then submit it to deduction, failing many times. It's almost time to finish my college graduation thesis. Fortunately, it was completed in the end, which is also the guarantee that he is here. As for cat language, he communicated with cats for a period of time, collected their voices, and completed the deduction. Basic internal strength is the foundation of everything he has now. According to my current strength, I should have no problem dealing with ordinary Chunin. If it's a Junin, even a special Junin will die easily. This is all theoretically speaking. He has never actually fought against Chunin, but his combat power on paper is no problem. But my advantage lies in close combat. Ninjas all attack from medium to long range. I need a method that can deal with long-range attack ninjutsu. Qinggong. Jin had made up his mind that speed was power. He had always believed that. Those who can't beat him can at least run, mainly those similar to Lingbo Weebu, plus the Lingbo Weebu that enhances chakra more than 10 times. If you want to increase the moving range distance. I don't believe that anyone can catch him and hit him. And he already has some theories in his mind, but he hasn't had time to complete them yet. Use paper drawings as induction, use shaving to create movement, and add the 5 elements and bagua. In his previous life, he was led to be superstitious for a period of time, and he was asked to read through books such as the Bagua and the Book of Changes. Although the memory is blurred, it can be brought up through deduction. First, he brought up the text box of the deduction, and with a thought, all the vague Yi Jing gossip he wanted appeared on it. Then find some ninjutsu about movement from the bookshelf and investigate the scope of some large ninjutsu. He first needs to sort it all out, then gather the details, complete the idea, and finally re-enter it into the text box. Deduction. The results will be available soon. Deduction failed. Uchiha Jin's sad face backquote. Honestly, are you pretending to be a university professor just to get me to write a paper? Then do I still have to check for plagiarism? There is something wrong with this system that allows people to write essays. What's the difference? Jin began to check the paper. The theories compiled above. At this moment, his pupils shrank into a black dot, and soon returned to their original shape, with an expression of surprise on his face. Kushina actually broke through. Time moves back slightly. Kushina sent Namikaze Minato away, resting her upper body on the window, holding her cheeks in her hands and looking at the falling raindrops outside. But why is my little brother so girly and stupid? She was caught up in her own troubles. When Minato Namikaze left, he was dumbfounded, with a dull look on his face and always blushed. Thinking of that hateful Uchiha again, there was nothing left to say. You two will never find a girlfriend in the future. Kushina looked disgusted. One girl, the other a venomous person. After clearing the table, she returned to the room. This house belonged to Mito, and Mito died when the Kyuubi was sealed on Kushina. This place became her home, but it didn't feel like home at all. I'm an outsider here. Kushina sat on the bed, her mind immersed in her body. This might be the only way to save her from having to think too much. When the ninjutsu obtained by the Uchiha is used, it will fall into a state of tranquility, allowing her chaotic thoughts to gradually come together. According to the Dantian mentioned in Basic Internal Strength, the chakra is woven into the shape of an egg there, occupying the entire lower abdomen. As long as a trace of chakra is born, it will be sucked into the egg. Even the chakra coming out of the nine tails is the same. Moreover, once the nine tails chakra, which is difficult to control, reaches the egg, it can be completely controlled by her. It also caused the originally blue egg to turn into a golden light. Isn't the fox red? Kushina was particularly puzzled. Sometimes she could enter the seal inside her body and see the smelly fox locked in the sewer. Now she can do it more easily. Inside the golden egg, a more complex sealing technique was occupying the middle position. The red dots were emitting red chakra little by little, and then turned into gold. There was a lot of this red chakra at first, but now there is only a trace coming out. But even if it's just a little bit, her golden chakra egg that keeps laying down has turned into a real egg. According to the records of Basic Internal Skills, as the chakra condenses, it starts as a sealing technique composed of various chakra lines, then turns into a transparent egg of light, and then becomes opaque on the outside, which is the current state. I think I've finished the first paragraph. Kushina thought. The first stage is essentially the process of accumulating chakra. It is not very difficult, so anyone with chakra can complete it. Rare is the second step. Use chakra to seal the meridians through which chakra flows throughout the body, and chakra needs to be extracted from the egg to construct the sealing technique. But the specific amount of basic internal strength required was not mentioned above, and the Uchiha didn't mention it either. It should take a lot. Kushina frowned slightly, her mind sinking towards the center of the chakra egg. Dark space, huge rock prison, surrounded by mountains. In the darkness of the rock prison, a pair of scarlet eyes opened, glanced at the little loli who appeared here, and then closed their eyes again. Kushina was not afraid of him. She walked towards the sealed door and saw the huge fox lying on the ground as if sleeping soundly. When she went up, she kicked her feet on the railing and made a dang sound. Don't sleep, big fox, lend me some chakra. The 9 llamas didn't even raise their eyes, and spoke clearly. No loan. If it were another person, he would definitely borrow it, and then the Jinchuriki would lose his mind and tear the seal, and he would be free. But this little kid, after getting that abominable ninjutsu, was actually devouring his chakra. What kind of ghost ninjutsu is that? Why has he never heard of such a strange ninjutsu? It is simply the natural enemy of their tailed beasts. It's even worse than Mito. Mito would probably slap him twice if he was in a bad mood. This was considered a direct robbery. She wasn't borrowing it, she was blatantly robbing it. Okay. Smelly fox, would you like to borrow it? Kushina's hair began to twitch when she heard the rejection. Kyubi turned around and pointed his butt towards her, already making his intention clear. But it made Kushina even more angry. Stinky fox, you have to borrow it if you don't want to. 3 chains stretched out from her back and rushed over the railing towards 9 llamas. At this time, Julama already felt something was wrong and wanted to turn around, but was pushed back by the chains and screamed in pain. Ouch! When her mind returned to her body, Kushina blushed and looked at the ceiling unconsciously, apologizing softly. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it. Who told you to point your butt towards me? 9 llama, I would like to call you the most ruthless Jinchuriki. It was too late to think about this matter now. A large amount of chakra began to emerge from the chakra egg, and the amount was so huge that her chakra egg could not absorb it. She quickly stabilized her body and mind and began to control this chakra with all her strength. Fortunately, the chakra eggs in her body had strong suction power and prevented the 9 tails chakra from escaping. Otherwise, people outside will definitely find out. Use chakra to block the meridians of the entire body. The second level of basic internal strength, opening the body, is achieved. An honest person is actually a happy person. The morning mist still carries yesterday's moisture. Inoue Satoru straightened his hair and walked into the office. At a glance, he saw Yanshin miming, who had been teaching since the 1st grade. Her long flaxen hair was braided into a neat ponytail, and the ninja vest she wore couldn't cover up her plump figure. Yanshin Mingming is sorting out the information to start teaching children again. They, the teachers of the ninja school, have to teach a class from the very beginning to graduation, and then start over again from a young age. Inoue Satoru fiddled with his clothes again and rushed to Mingming with a smile that he thought was charming. "Teacher Yanshin, would you like to have dinner together tonight?" "No." Yanshin Mingming replied without raising his head, keeping his eyes on his lesson preparation documents. Inoue Satoru returned to his desk frustrated. This time was the time for their teacher to prepare, and class would have to wait for a while. After sorting out the textbooks, Inkstone took a few notebooks and suddenly asked Inoue Satoru about Uchiha Jin. "Teacher Inoue, I heard that the Uchiha Jin was returned to your class." Inoue Satoru instantly regained his energetic attitude. "Yes, I remember that in the last class, that Uchiha Jin transferred to teacher Yanshin's class." Inkstone also took Uchiha Jin with him for a year. Thinking of Uchiha Jin who seemed to be up all night and catching up on sleep in class, he felt his head hurt. This is a bigger problem than Kushina who explodes at the first moment. At least Kushina is listening to the class. Now Jin's ninja battle evaluation is still 0, and he didn't give it intentionally. Jin didn't care at all and just slept all day. How to give points? Seeing Inoue Satoru's sad face, Yanshin was deeply touched. That kid is a big problem. He doesn't talk about sleeping in class, and he always wants me to go out to eat with him. Yanshin sighed. Although she knew that her figure was very attractive to men, a child who was not yet an adult would always ask her out. Is it her problem or this little kid's problem? And that look was completely the same as the way Inoue Satoru looked at her. He is only 12 years old. Are children maturing so early these days? What was she doing when she was 12 years old? She has a crush on a handsome Hyuga guy. That's fine. It is already a tradition in ninja school to mature early. But Jin still made her very distressed, mainly because for a period of time he sent her flowers and made appointments with her. She felt that Jin came to class just for her, and it couldn't be said to be harassing a child. What? That brat dared to harass teacher Mingming. Inoue Satoru's eyes widened. He didn't expect that boy to taste like him. Bah, he dared to harass his goddess. After all, it's just a child, so it doesn't matter. Mingming didn't care. But I think Mr. Inoue, please pay attention. That kid likes to skip class. Inoue May thought about last year. During the one-year course, Uchiha Jin's attendance rate was only 50%, especially after she flatly rejected her, no one could be seen. What? Satoru Suko looked solemn. If Jin skipped classes, it would be a stain on his teaching career, although it would not affect his future employment. But it will make him doubt his teaching level. Thinking of this, he rushed out of the office and ran to class. When everyone arrived, only one figure was still missing. Really? Kin Uchiha. That's right, Uchiha Kamikaze skipped class. Yawning as he walked on the road, he almost knew the textbooks from the ninja school by heart, if he really wanted to discuss them. I know the course better than Inoue Satoru. It's a pity that he is not the teacher with a good figure, which also greatly weakens his interest in class. Although the streets of Konoha are bustling, there are very few pedestrians on the road. Jin glanced at the pedestrians passing by. The passers-by wrapped themselves in thin clothes and walked quickly forward with sad faces. Most of the open shops on the street were restaurants. In addition to hurried pedestrians, there were also frowning ninjas running past. The war has not completely started yet, but the atmosphere of war has gradually spread to the village. Jin saw Matt Dai helping merchants unload goods in the commercial street. He was bent over carrying 5 or 6 bags of goods on his back, but his teammates were nowhere to be seen. Jin, tisk, was surprised. Although the current Matt Dai is not at his peak, it is estimated that opening 6 doors should not be a big problem, but in the end he is working hard here. He stepped forward and said hello. Hey, uncle, we meet again. Matt Dai saw the expression on King's face turn to horror. Uchiha. A big jump after jumping, this is the sequelae of Jin's fright last night. You be careful. This caused dissatisfaction among the merchants waiting to unload the goods. Sorry. Matt Dai hurriedly stepped forward to apologize. Jin raised his eyebrows, but the businessman just glanced at the Uchiha badge on Jin's body and didn't dare to say anything, and took a few steps back. In the Leaf Village, Uchiha was also a deterrent. "Wait for me," Matt Dai whispered and began to increase his power. The goods were quickly transported with more than a dozen bags at a time. Then he nodded and bowed to the businessman, and then the businessman was satisfied and allowed Matt to leave. Jin, who was leaning against the telephone pole and waiting, raised his eyebrows. The ninja world is a very deformed world. Those who really hold power are ordinary people, and ninjas are just swords in their hands. It's just that sometimes I'm not very obedient. The aristocratic class and business class headed by the daimyo were very afraid of ninjas, but looked down upon them. It's incredible. It's not that ordinary people can't be allowed to take power. The main reason is that these people in power don't care about human affairs, and they still drag them as much as 2,500,000 to 80,000 yuan. In the normal world, this would have been overturned long ago. Ha ha ha, boy, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. Matt Dai wiped his hands on the sides of his pants. In fact, he didn't understand why this Uchiha boy was looking for him. "Uncle, have you practiced the ninjutsu I gave you?" Jin raised his head with a look of anticipation on his face like a child. His ability may not be that good these years, but his acting skills are easy to come by. "I've practiced it, it's much easier than I expected." Matt Dai laughed. That ninjutsu may be the only one he can successfully practice. "Then why haven't you started yet?" Jin kept smiling, and wanted to ask, Namikaze Minato and Kushina both started in one night, why can't they do it in Matt Day? "Uncle, is there something you don't understand? I can explain it to you." "Ah, you've practiced it too. Aren't you unable to release ninjutsu after practicing that one?" Matt Dai looked at Jin in surprise. It was clearly recorded on it that the person who had just mastered it was unable to use normal ninjutsu, and he decided to practice it because he had no talent for ninjutsu. However, Uchiha cannot release ninjutsu. "Are you Uchiha Jin?" Matt Dai reacted and pointed at Jin with a surprised look on his face. "I didn't expect Uncle to have some brains." Jin was not surprised at all. His reputation was no longer normal. Why are Uchiha so hated? He was the only one who couldn't use ninjutsu, and everyone knew it. He didn't even understand. Ha ha ha. Matt Dai laughed awkwardly. Is this praising him or scolding him? "So uncle, if you don't understand anything, just ask. After all, it is a ninjutsu that comes from Uchiha. If you can't complete it, then I will have to tell others that you stole it." Before Jin could finish his words, Matt Dai covered him up. He was sweating coldly and looking back and forth with a guilty conscience. Then he let Jin go and lowered his voice to question. "Isn't that the reward for my mission?" "That's right, but I'm the only one who knows about this. The money I handed over to the Hokage building was for money." Jin had no shame at all and told all the things he had framed him for. Matt's face had turned pale and his body was swaying. He was actually framed by people from the same village. Can't everyone in the village be trustworthy? "Now, I will give you two conditions. As long as you complete one of them, this matter will be over. If you can't complete it, humph." Jin snorted a threat and looked at Matt Dai, whose expression kept changing. "It's fun to bully honest people. Sir, you are so noble, my wife is still pregnant." Matt Dai quickly knelt on the ground and begged. Jin scratched his face in embarrassment, as if it was a bit too much, and hurriedly pulled Matt Dai up, and now he looked around nervously. Fortunately, no one noticed here, so he spoke slowly. "Listen to my condition first, that is to complete the ninjutsu I gave you tonight, or beat me." Matt Dai scratched his head, his eyes almost turned into question marks now. However, he was not asked to do anything excessive. He breathed a sigh of relief and asked with some uncertainty, "That's all?" Seeing whether Mate believed it or not, Jin hurriedly said, "That's all." Suddenly I feel so scary about being honest. I really don't dare to provoke him anymore. Matt Dai frowned and thought for a while, then suddenly realized it and raised his thumb to Jin. "It turns out that the young man is here to inspire me. I am so touched." Tears welled up in his eyes. Finally got over it. Jin wiped the non-existent cold sweat on his forehead, feeling a little carried away just now. "That's right. Don't worry, young man, I will definitely complete the ninjutsu." Matt Dai patted Jin's shoulder with confidence. Even if it takes 10 or 20 years, he will complete it. If you can't do it, I will definitely tell you. Matt Dai looked at Jin in horror. He felt that every time Jin said something, he would be frightened. If you think ninjutsu will take a long time, then you have only one choice. Jin patted Matt Dai's back. His shoulders were really out of reach. But Matt Dai still hesitated. After all, the other party is a student of the ninja school. Isn't he bullying others? Seeing Matt Dai's hesitation, Jin bared his teeth and smiled. Don't underestimate me, I'm very strong. The purpose of his coming today is to see the legendary. The one who can kick off the finale. 8 Gates Dunjia. 8 Gates Dunjia. In the leaf forest, Uchiha Jin's body leaned forward slightly, his hands were naturally vertical, and he was ready to take out the blade on his leg at any time. With his eyes downcast, he looked at Matt Dai who was scratching his head in front of him. Matt Dai was still hesitant. He really didn't want to do anything with a child. Actually, we don't need this. Although this child's torment makes him nervous, he won't let himself take action against him. Especially for the Uchiha children, I wonder if a group of police officers will rush into his house after the beating. But Jin didn't want to listen to these nonsense at all. He stepped on it and his figure disappeared instantly. Shave. Pour all the chakra into your feet and step on the ground dozens of times at high speed to generate explosive reaction force to move at high speed. The next moment, Jin appeared behind Matt Dai and kicked him. Matt Dai raised his arm in time to resist. Bump. The arms and feet made a solid collision sound, and Matt Dai flew out on his side, adjusted his body in midair, landed on the ground with 2 feet and 1 hand at the same time, and slid back a certain distance to maintain stability. So strong. Matt Dai was surprised by the intensity of this kick. It's not over yet. The sound came from his head, and Mater Dai raised his head and saw Jin lifting his foot high and slashing down. Fortunately, he rolled to the side in time to avoid it. Bump. The ground made a small crater under Jin's feet, and the dust flew up. The strange power technique of Tsunade. Matt Dai was a figure of the same era as the future Sannin, so he naturally knew Tsunade's famous stunt. Jin's attack was not over yet. He firmly grasped the ground with both hands, his legs rotated like a roulette wheel, and his kick just hit Dai's face, which was half lying on the ground. Jin kicked him away hard. As Dai's body fell from the air to the ground. Among the swirling dust, Jin's figure slowly walked out, frowning and looking at Matt Dai who fell on the ground. In just a simple fight, Matt Dai's taijutsu reached the Chunin level he estimated. If ninjutsu is included, then Matt Dai is a real genin. But this alone would not satisfy him. What he wanted to see was the 8-gate Dunjia, and he wanted to use words to intimidate him, but he thought about Matt Dai's serious look just now. Just forget it. He was afraid that the other party would be stressed again. Uncle Dai, didn't you say your wife is pregnant? Aren't you in need of money? This time I will hire you for AC level mission of 50,000 taels and try your best to defeat me. Jin took out his crow-shaped wallet and took out a 50,000 taels of Fire Country banknotes. With a wave of his hand, the soft banknotes were nailed to a tree not far away. Matt Dai rubbed his face and sat up. Looking at the banknotes on the tree, 50,000 taels could indeed solve his temporary financial problem, but it was just that. Young man, didn't you give me the ninjutsu because you had no money? Question marks filled his head. Ha, ha. Jin scratched his head in embarrassment and laughed to hide his embarrassment. His parents left him a lot of money, and no one in Uchiha would embezzle. The proud Uchiha did not bother to embezzle the inheritance left by his parents to their children, which Konoha could not do. Give Uchiha a thumbs up. None of this matters. Defeating me is the only thing you need to think about. Jin had no intention of continuing these topics, he just wanted to see how far his strength had reached. This was his first real confrontation with a ninja. Please fight me with the determination to kill me, because I will also be determined to kill you. In the past 12 years, he has been fighting against jackals, tigers and leopards, and the students of the ninja school are not at all threatening. Seeing the war approaching, he needed to know his exact strength. Matt Dai had a serious look on his face. I understand, young man, I see your determination. Let you see the power of self-discipline. Matt Dai crossed his arms in front of him. He could feel Jin's urgent mood, although he didn't know why. 8-gate Dunjia, open the door, open it. Green chakra exploded from his body in an instant, and the ground collapsed under his feet and cracked. The figure instantly appeared in front of Jin, spinning his body in midair and kicking him. That's it. Jin turned sideways to look at the oncoming kick and fell backward to avoid the blow. Matt landed on the ground and started attacking with all his strength using his fists and kicks. But among Matt Day's fast punches and kicks, Jin swayed like paper with his fist wind, and no punch or kick could land smoothly on Jin's body. Paper drawing. Use your sensitive skin to feel the airflow outside, and use chakra to pull your body along with the airflow, creating the effect of avoiding other people's attacks like a paper painting. Not enough. I understand, young man, close the door, hurt the door, and open all 4 doors. Matt Day's skin began to turn red, his speed increased instantly, and there was a sharp punch between his fists. A bloodstain appeared on Jin's face, which was caused by the wind from the fist. Paper painting is no longer bearable. He raised his arm and made a bump sound, and Matt Day's fist hit Jin's arm with a crisp sound. The next moment, the two of them disappeared from the same spot. In this forest, 2 black figures were seen moving rapidly against each other. The airflow of fists and feet swept across a tree, the branches were blown, whispering, and all the birds inside flew up. Boom! A fist mark appeared on a tree, and a hole appeared in the tree. The figures of Matt Day and Jin appeared and disappeared in an instant. As the intense exchanges reached their most intense moments, Jin's figure flew out upside down, and his body hit the tree trunk. The powerful force broke the tree at the same time. Jin fell to the ground and gasped. It's the limit. The physical strength test ended here. He was suppressed and beaten throughout the whole process and could not gain the upper hand at all. Next is ninjutsu. Matt Day's attack has arrived, a horizontal kick. Pung! The smoke dissipated, and a piece of wood exploded instantly with his kick. Jin was hanging upside down not far away, with his hands quickly making overprints. Si Wei Shen Hai Wu Yin. He blew hard at Matt Day in the distance. Art Fire Escape Ho Fireball. Spewing huge fireballs from its mouth towards Mater Dai. Unexpectedly, Matt Day's figure dodged over. His figure had already appeared in front of him, and a fist slammed down from top to bottom with the force of falling. With a touch, Jin's figure turned into smoke. Using the hair that was now shaved off Matt's back, he put his hands together and pounded down hard. Veins burst out on Matt Day's forehead, and the green chakra on his body became more intense. The 5th door, Duman, open. Jin's hammer hit the air, and the figure in front of him disappeared. Before he could react, the surrounding scenery suddenly changed rapidly. His body was flying backwards quickly, and with a bump, he hit the tree, and pain was felt in his stomach. It was too fast and I couldn't react at all. Young man, you lost. Matt Day appeared in front of Jin. Jin wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and lay directly on his back on the lawn. Ha ha ha, I lost. He lost cleanly and knew his own limit. At the level of the 4th gate, this kind of strength was comparable to that of a special Junin. In contrast to the later generations of Naruto, Lee couldn't even defeat Gaara after opening the 4 gates, but he could easily defeat the Jinchuriki of the special Junin. In other words, he is only 12 years old and has reached the level of a special Junin. Ha 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 ha. He was really happy. Although he can't compare with those hanging on the wall in the ninja world, he is still at the level of a genius. Ninjas essentially have high attack and low defense. As long as they are particularly powerful in one aspect, a genin may kill a Junin. For example, if Kakashi's Reikiri is used in the future, even if a genin comes to use it, a Junin will die if he takes a hit. It's a pity that it has not reached the level of being able to compete with the 5 gates, which is equivalent to Junin. The 6 gates are elite Junin. The 7 gates other than Metkai are shadows. The 8 gates are super shadows and even the 6 paths. Matei took the money off the tree and carefully put it in his clothes. The money was enough to cover his family's expenses for a certain period of time. Young man Jin, how can you use ninjutsu? Matt Day, who had returned to normal, limped and sat next to Jin and asked. 5 doors was the limit he could open, and it was impossible to avoid injury to his body. When basic internal skills are upgraded to the 2nd stage, even if you have no ninjutsu talent, you can easily learn most ninjutsu. It's a pity that I only had time to learn one shadow clone and fireball in one night. Jin was lying on the ground and had no strength to get up, but he still took out his wallet and took out 50,000 taels and put it on the ground. This is medical expenses and confidentiality fees. Remember to keep it secret for me. He knew that it was not easy to make money as a genin, Matt Dai. In the current evaluation of ninjas, ninjutsu and genjutsu are extremely important. Matt Dai, who only has physical talent, cannot be promoted to chunin. The change may come after he kicks the Kurigakure 7 ninjas into the lucky 3 treasures in the future. I can't accept it. A few minor injuries are not worth caring about. Matt Dai did not take the money. Don't worry, since you don't want to say it, I won't tell it either. It's time to get the money, don't force me to threaten you with ninjutsu. Matt's face collapsed. Didn't he just say that if he won, it would be over? Seeing that Jin didn't say much, he could only sigh and put the money away. I had never felt so uncomfortable collecting money. Young man Jin, why are you working so hard? Matt Dai didn't understand why Jin had to fight with such intensity. Jin looked at the white clouds floating in the sky, the clear blue sky, and felt more comfortable than ever before. I just want to live freely. It's a pity that in this ninja world where there is endless strife, this kind of thing cannot be done. It's really a very good dream. Matt Dai was also lying on the ground, earning 100,000 yuan, and no longer needed to work hard to take on tasks. What a pity. Jin sighed. The war is coming, so let Matt keep it a secret and not spread the ninjutsu he deduced widely, just to let others know his strength and be pushed to dangerous places. If he is a ninja from other ninja clans, or even a civilian ninja, this is all a matter of chance, but it is a pity that he is an Uchiha. Dangerous missions are a given. Matt Dai suddenly spoke up. Young man Jin, do you want to learn my 8-gate Dunjia? Huh. The surprise appearance of Orochimaru. You seem to want to know your own strength. I see the pursuit of strength in your eyes. Although I think it's wrong to blindly pursue power, I guess the boy has a reason why he has to pursue power. Matt Dai looked like an adult. Jin touched his eye sockets, wondering how he could see these things. He can only see other people's eyes. This method of seeing the other person's purpose is not a spy that can be seen at a glance. Matt Dai didn't know where Jin Leap's thinking was. Then I'll teach you the 8-gate Dunjia, and you can teach me the basic internal skills in ninjutsu. His Matt's abacus also made a snapping sound. When it came to 8-gate Dunjia, Jin wanted it, but he didn't expect it to be so direct. Matt Dai sat up and began to explain with a serious face. I am a genin who practices every day. It has taken me more than 10 years to fully master this technique, but I still have some experience. When using this trick, a strict condition must be added. That's self-discipline. Jin didn't think so. The main purpose of his cultivation, aside from survival, was to do whatever he wanted. If he wanted to add a time limit, he hoped it would be forever. Under Matt Dai's explanation, Jin also gradually understood the content of 8 gates Dunjia. It's just that this ninjutsu is much simpler and countless times more difficult than expected. What is simple is the content, what is difficult is the difficulty of cultivation. The content of the entire 8-door Dunjia is not only short, but also easy to understand. Anyone can learn it quickly and start training. But it is extremely difficult to complete. To put it bluntly, Baman Dunjia means constantly breaking through the limits of one's own body, which means suppressing the 8 gates that control chakra in the body. The existence of the 8 gates itself is to protect the limitations that arise in the human body. Just like the human body limiter mentioned in previous lives, many people turn on the body limiter in times of crisis. Even a weak woman can lift a car, but the price is serious injury and death. The 8 gates are the limiters of chakra, which also explains why opening the 8 gates can harm oneself. The opening of the 8-gate Dunjia does not rely on life and death crises, but relies on exercises beyond the body's limits to crack the 8 gates bit by bit, and then pours chakra into it to burst out all the chakra inside. The physical limit is not easy to surpass. Generally, a ninja can surpass it once, but the difficulty of the next physical limit will increase exponentially. No wonder future generations of Kakashi would express surprise at Rock Lee's mastery of the 4 gates. That is not something that can be achieved through hard work alone. The 4 doors also represent that Rock Lee exceeded his physical limits 4 times. It's incredible to think about. This taijutsu is not suitable for me. Jin shook his head regretfully, constantly exceeding his physical limits. He was confident in his perseverance, but he needed to spend a lot of time and energy to create stronger ninjutsu. He couldn't do it as those seniors who held the 8-gate Dunjia for a few months or even a few days could directly open the 8 gates. According to his inner estimation, it would take him at least more than 10 years to reach the strength of Matt Day's opening of 5 doors. It would also take more than 10 years to open 5 doors to 7. The 8th door was the easiest, but it was fatal. The 8th gate of 8-gate Dunjia is the most special one. It is much easier than the first 7 gates. As long as you open the first 5 gates, you can open the 8th gate at any time, but the price is your life. At this time, he understood why Matt Dai was not as good as Met Kai when he opened 8 doors. When Matt opened the 8th gate, he probably hadn't reached the 7th gate yet. Because according to the 8-gate Dunjia training method, the strength of those who reach the 8 gates should be almost the same. Jin looked at Matt Day thoughtfully. Young man, there is nothing inappropriate. Maybe you have someone you need to protect with your youth. Matt Day gave Jin a thumbs up. Is this a curse for his death? Absolutely. Forget it. Jin didn't want to care about it anymore, mainly because his injuries didn't allow him to care about it. Next it was his turn to teach. How far have you reached your basic internal strength now? Jin also sat up. Matt Dai pondered for a moment. Prepare the seal. Gold. That's not the first step. Then let's start from the beginning. Matt Dai went back. After all, he still had his wife to take care of. Jin looked up at the sky. There was a little blush among the clouds. This qualification is really incredible. He was still immersed in what he had just taught Dai, and he could not imagine that there really were such stupid people. It shouldn't be called stupid, it's just like someone without ninja qualifications forcibly condensing chakra. Everyone in this world has chakra in their body to a greater or lesser extent, but if you want to extract it from your cells, you have to have a prerequisite. Regarding chakra sensitivity, only those who can sense chakra can refine chakra. Many ninjas are unique in this regard. The Uchiha clan is particularly outstanding, and at least 90% of them are qualified to become ninjas. After all, this is a world that seems to be playing ninjutsu, but is actually playing with blood. Being able to sense chakra can naturally control it freely, but the degree of precision is different. Just like the medical ninjas who have not yet appeared, they have very high requirements for chakra precision. Dai's control over chakra is less than 50%. When others use 1 point of force to control chakra, he needs to use 5 points to control chakra. This is something Jin did not expect at all. The difficulty of ninjutsu for others has increased 5 times for Dai. No wonder I can't use ninjutsu or genjutsu. For Matt Dai, AC level ninjutsu is as good as AB level ninjutsu, and this level of difficulty has already stumped most ninjas. Although the basic internal skills are simple and only have AD level learning difficulty, there is a threshold. For Dai, it is AC level difficulty. So the qualifications of a ninja are so important. He now deeply feels the limitations of this world for the mediocre, and the 8-door Dunjia technique is the only way for the mediocre to overtake in corners. Fortunately, I have good qualifications. Although he looks like this, he is actually a ninja with all attributes that is rare in Uchiha. He has the same qualifications as Sarutobi Hiruzen and others. The pinnacle of this qualification is Hiruzen Sarutobi, who seems to be called Dr. Ninjutsu and the strongest Hokage. In fact, Orochimaru probably knows more ninjutsu than he does. This is a film that has grown up completely based on qualifications. That is to say, in theory, even if Jin grows up step by step, if he has the opportunity to open the Sharingan, he can even surpass Sarutobi Hiruzen. However, Sarutobi Hiruzen had a good teacher named Senju Tobarama, and his reserve of ninjutsu was extremely large. Too bad he didn't, so it can only be achieved theoretically. But if he was just comparing himself to Sarutobi Hiruzen, he had never thought that his ambitions were much greater than that. His goal has never been the shadows of this world, the super shadows, nor the level of Uchiha Madara Senju Hashirama. He is on par with the Immortals and Six Paths level of the Three Holy Places. Combat strength actually doesn't matter, the main thing is that they can survive, which is his goal. Let him live for 1,000 years first. However, this matter of all his attributes cannot be exposed, because once exposed, he doesn't know what will happen to Sarutobi Hiruzen, but Nabekage will not let him grow up. Weakening and suppressing Uchiha is Konoha's political correctness. I might as well defect. I feel safer here than outside. Jin cursed and left the place. He just said that the ninja world is too chaotic now, and it needs to develop first, and then wait until it grows up. Uchiha Jin doesn't eat beef. He did not choose to leave the Konoha forest, but turned around and walked deeper into the forest. An abandoned and dilapidated training ground. There were two figures crossing each other quickly. If you look closely, you will see that both figures are made of gold. The art of shadow clone. One only uses taijutsu, and the other uses 3-body jutsu and fire escape ninjutsu for attack. The shadow clone technique is completely a cheating artifact. Memories can be transferred back as long as the body and chakra do not grow. So if you use it to practice ninjutsu and increase your experience in battles, you will improve quickly. Kim did the same. The maximum limit is 3 shadow clones. To be able to sustain it for a day and transfer the experience back at the same time, he can only withstand 3 shadow clones. The fatigue of the shadow clone will be superimposed on the main body. He is not the Uzumaki Naruto who relies on the protagonist's halo in future generations. No matter how he is used, it will not have much impact. If there are too many, they will die. At the same time, there is a shadow clone who is learning ninjutsu at home. Untie. Jin formed a seal with his hands, and the 2 shadow clones, Pung, and Pung, turned into 2 puffs of smoke and disappeared. A lot of battle memories came to mind. Fighting with yourself is not as rewarding as fighting with Mat Dai. Just as he was reminiscing about the battle, he saw sudden movement in the grass from the corner of his eye. He took out a kunai from the ninja bag on his leg and threw it over. Whoosh! When he walked over, he saw a small white snake pinned to the ground by a kunai and struggling. It's really rare, this kind of snake. Jin sighed, pulled out the kunai, and the little white snake quickly ran away into the distance. But before the little white snake could escape completely, a shuriken suddenly flew and cut off the head of the little white snake. The headless snake body struggled wildly, but unfortunately it could not avoid the fate of death. Jin's eyes narrowed, he took out his kunai and put his whole body on guard, not noticing who was around at all. Basic internal strength only enhances perception. Life is so fragile. A sigh. What followed was a surging killing intent. The air seemed to be stained with black. Jin felt like he was wearing heavy shackles, and even his breathing became a little heavier. Looking into the distance, a long-haired man wearing a white kimono and pale skin walked slowly. A man like a snake. He was obviously just wearing regular clothes and didn't look like he was fighting at all, but he was just approaching that pace. Ta-ta, ta-ta. His heart beat with the other's footsteps. The man walked up to the dead little snake, but his expression was sad, and he didn't look like someone with murderous intent at all. You think so? Uchiha boy. Orochimaru. Thanks for watching.